I've shot hundreds of commercials, music videos, and film. And these are my top cameras for filmmakers and videographers. Now, each camera in this video is for a specific shooting style, project type, and budget level. So make sure to watch the whole video to find the right camera for you. Let's get into it. Now, the first camera on this list is recommended for someone who's ready to step up to a more serious video camera, but wants the flexibility in being able to shoot multiple kinds of projects from music videos, weddings, commercials, short films, and much more. And this is the R6 Mark II. And I'll leave links with the best pricing for the R6 Mark II and the other cameras down below. The R6 Mark II has a 24.2 megapixel full frame sensor. And this sensor is really good in low light up to 12,800 as long as you're using full stops of ISO. And it has about 11.1 stops of usable dynamic range in C-Log3 with 10-bit color, which should be good enough for 90% of your projects. And the rolling shutter is pretty minimal, so it's a great camera for action and movement. And the colors are spectacular, which is something Canon is known for, and people in skin tones especially look really good. Plus, it has top-of-the-line autofocus with subject detect and in-body stabilization, which will make run and gun and handheld shooting a lot easier and less stressful. It also records 4K up to 60 frames per second without any sort of crop or compromise in quality, and the video is also downsampled from 6K in every frame rate, so you actually have 6K quality but in a smaller and easier to edit 4K file, along with a high frame rate mode of 120 and 180 frames per second in full HD, and this mode is not downsampled from 6K. But if you need even more juice from the R6 Mark II, you can also record 12-bit ProRes RAW at 6K up to 60 frames per second using an Atomos Ninja Plus, giving you even more flexibility when it comes to post-production and color grading. As for design, the R6 Mark II is a pretty typical hybrid photo and video camera, so you definitely want to pick up a cage and a monitor to use it like a proper video camera. But the button layout and menus are super fast and easy to navigate. Plus, it also has a dual SD card slot for redundancy and overflow, along with a large Pro-style battery that's going to give you almost an hour and a half to 2 hours of non-stop video with USB-C charging. I think the R6 Mark II is a safe bet for someone that wants to try different kinds of projects and wants a camera that's going to let you tackle all of the different projects that might come your way. The R6 Mark II may not be the most glamorous choice, but it's definitely the smartest. Now, if you're more of a content creator or you want a cinema camera on a budget, the next camera is the best value for your money if you're a beginner, and that is the Sony ZV-E1 II. It has a 26 megapixel APS-C size sensor, which is the same sensor as the FX3 cinema camera. It has a dynamic range of 11.3 usable stops, which is very close to the R6 Mark II, and it has a dual native ISO of 800 and 2500 ISO, but you can easily shoot as high as 6400 ISO, making it a very good low light camera, and you can also stretch your small video lights a lot further. All frame rates are in 10-bit color with S-Log3 and Sony Cinema profiles, and I really like how easy S-Log3 is to color grade. The autofocus is remarkably accurate for a budget model, plus it also has AI subject detect, and for most of you guys, you will never notice any autofocusing issues. But being a budget model, it only has digital stabilization, which might be a deal breaker for some shooters, but personally I recommend just investing in a cheap gimbal for most people. In terms of frame rates, it shoots 4K at 60 frames per second, but it's also downsampled from 6K just like the R6 Mark II, giving you pretty amazing image quality for a budget camera. And you also have full HD at 120 frames per second as well. One of the most interesting modes in this camera is cinematic vlog mode, which gives you a cinematic aspect ratio plus an adjustable cinematic filter or your own custom LUT, and if you're a total noob, this is a really helpful tool for jump-starting your creative ideas as you learn how to color grade and post-process. Design-wise, the ZV-E1 II is 100% a vlog camera, but the button layout and design is very easy to use and it shouldn't really be too much of an issue, and the small body easily lets you rig it up like a cinema camera. It also has a large Pro-style battery, where most budget cameras like this have a teeny tiny battery that drains super fast. The ZV-E1 II is without a doubt the best bang for your buck as a beginner filmmaker, content creator, or if you just want a good video camera. It's basically a budget FX3 for half the price. Now, if you want something specifically for cinematic filmmaking like music videos, commercials, and for something where you plan to do a lot of heavy post-processing like color grading, or if you want something that has really fast rolling shutter readout, the Nikon Z6 III is the best camera you can get, and it's also an insane deal because it's had a pretty steep price drop. The Nikon Z6 III has a 24 megapixel full frame sensor with the minimal rolling shutter, making it very good for action and sports. And on top of that, it also has in-body stabilization for smooth handheld motion, and you still get about 10.5 stops of dynamic range, similar to the R6 Mark II, but you can easily squeeze out 12.2 stops of dynamic range with a little bit of noise reduction. Speaking of noise, the Z6 III is not a great low-light camera. You really want to overexpose the sensor for the best results, though the Nikon Z6 III does have a dual native ISO of 800 and 6400, and the autofocus is about as good as the Canon R6 Mark II. I've shot several YouTube videos with the Nikon Z6 III, and it worked out just fine. What makes the Nikon Z6 III such a special camera in my opinion is that it can also shoot Nikon RAW internally and ProRes RAW internally in 12-bit color, or ProRes 422HQ in Nikon Log with 10-bit color. I've shot several projects using Nikon RAW or Nikon Log. It's an incredible codec and log profile and works really well even with heavy color grading. On top of that, Red Cinema Camera just released 4 new Rec 709 conversions based on the IPP2 color profiles from the Red Cinema cameras that give you a really great starting point when it comes to color grading. In terms of frame rates, this is where the Nikon Z6 III really shines. It does 6K up to 60 frames per second with no crop or compromise, or 4K at 120 frames per second with a 1.6 APS-C crop. And you can also shoot full HD uncropped at 120 and 240 frames per second, giving you every single frame rate or creative tool you could possibly need to really use this like a proper cinema camera. Design-wise, the Nikon Z6 III is a typical hybrid mirrorless camera, and you will definitely need a proper cage and monitor. But the button layout and menus work really well for video shooters, and I also love the display on top that shows you all of your settings at a glance. And it also has a single CF Express or SD card slot. Sadly, there's no dual recording. One issue with the Nikon Z6 III is that the HDMI signal cuts out every time you stop recording or change frame rates, which might be annoying for some if you're using an external monitor or you have a wireless signal going out. I personally just got used to it and it wasn't a big issue for me. The Nikon Z6 III is one of the best options for a cinema mirrorless camera, and with the recent price drop, it is without a doubt the best value for your money. Nothing else even comes close to these specs at this price point. But if you want a cinema mirrorless camera for serious filmmaking and video creation, and you want absolutely zero compromises in terms of quality and design, you need to check out these next two cameras. The first one is the Lumix S1 II, and this camera is almost perfect for someone who's serious about their filmmaking and content creation. It uses the same 24 megapixel sensor as the Nikon Z6 III, but it delivers better dynamic range with 12 to 13 stops with almost the same rolling shutter performance, plus the low light performance that's actually as good or better than the Sony FX3 series. Plus, it also has 12-bit ProRes RAW internally, just like the Nikon Z6 III, or a 10-bit log profile. Plus, you will also be able to record Blackmagic RAW externally in about 2 months. Plus, the Lumix S1 II can also record all of its footage externally to an SSD drive. So if you do heavy post-processing and color grading, or work with very large files, you're going to love the Lumix S1 II. And the autofocus is massively improved, plus an urban sports mode for better performance. And Lumix cameras already had some of the best stabilization in the industry. The biggest highlight of the Lumix S1 II for me is 5.1K open gate up to 60 frames per second with no crop, no compromise. This is a dream for anamorphic shooters or anyone needs to shoot vertical and horizontal at the same time. And you can also get 4K at 120 frames per second in CinemaScope or a 1.24 times crop. And 3 cool design features in the Lumix S1 II. You can now record 32-bit float externally via an audio accessory. You also have dual CF and SD card slots and a cooling fan for longer run times. The Lumix S1 II is brand new and I personally have not tested it. All of this footage was provided to me by other content creators that I trust, and I'll also leave links down below for the best pricing on the S1 II when it comes out. Now, the next camera is my top recommendation and is one of the most popular video cameras out there. It's basically perfect for anything from music videos, films, commercials, corporate videos, weddings. You can pretty much throw anything you want at this camera, and that is the Sony FX3 and its cheaper little brother, the Sony ZV-E1, that deserves way more love and respect. They both have a 12 megapixel full frame sensor, which gives you an amazing dynamic range of 12.5 stops. And this is some of the best dynamic range you can get in almost any video camera like this. Plus, it has a dual native ISO of 12,800, so the low light looks amazing, and until the Lumix S1 II came out, This was the best low light camera in the world. Plus, on top of that, it has some of the best autofocus in the industry, along with in-body stabilization. All video modes also come in 10-bit color with Sony S-Log 3 and cinema profiles, and I personally find color grading S-Log 3 extremely easy. The FX3 can also output 12-bit ProRes RAW just like the R6 Mark II. However, the cheaper Sony ZV-E1 cannot do this. Now, frame rates is why I love this camera. It does 4K up to 60 frames per second with no crop or compromise, and 4K at 120 frames per second with a teeny tiny 10% crop that you will not notice. Plus, full HD up to 240 frames per second for ultra slow motion. The only thing that's missing is open gate for anamorphic shooters, though the FX3 does have shutter angle and anamorphic D-squeeze now available. Now, design is why I love the FX3. It is 100% a cinema camera with everything from the menus and button layout made for video shooters. It even has in-body threaded holes for accessories and mounting. Plus, it also comes with an audio top handle with XLR audio input as part of the package. This is a great addition for documentary and corporate shooters, or really anyone that needs good audio. Plus, the FX3 is built like a tank with weather sealing and a cooling fan for unlimited record time. Now, the little brother ZV-E1 does not have a fan and can overheat, but most of us are not rolling for more than 10 to 15 minutes, maybe 30 minutes at the most on music videos and commercials. So most of us will be just fine, and the savings might be worth getting the ZV-E1. For me, I've been shooting Sony for years now. I've shot so many projects on the FX3 sensor and the ZV-E1, and I honestly think this is one of the most reliable systems out there. It is one of those cameras you simply cannot go wrong with. And if you want to check out the ZV-E1, FX3, or any of the other cameras we've talked about in this video, check out the links down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.